I'm here today to talk about some lessons learned on the journey of the National Underground Asset Register, which I hope, and I would like to just actually see a show of hands who does not know anything about the National Underground Asset Register. And don't be shy, I'll be really interested. 10, 20, 30%. Interesting. Good. I had expected a fewer, but that's fine. I can cope. So at least there's going to be some new content for some of you in the room. So the program does mention also my colleague and friend Carsten Rönsdorf from the Ordnance Survey, who is relegated to the floor because due to integrity reasons, we are not giving this talk together, and I will explain a little bit throughout in the journey. So the Ordnance Survey is now running and operating the National Underground Asset Register, and I'm talking today on behalf of AtkinsRéalis, who were involved in the build phase and have now handed over. So if there are questions afterwards for Carsten, he will be answering them as Ordnance Survey from over there, and questions about the lessons learned will be answered by me. And I should also mention that, of course, the client for the whole thing was initially the Cabinet Office, where I was seconded into, and then the Department for Science, Innovation, Technology. The Geospatial Commission was the team, and they are now the Government Digital Services. And also for the reasons of being completely transparent, I'm also not talking on behalf of the government, and therefore I'm not going to be making any policy announcements. I'm just literally going to talk about the lessons that have been learned, and everything I'm mentioning in my talk is on the World Wide Web and published for you all to read and take away. So I am now employed since mid last year, beginning of last year at AtkinsRéalis. AtkinsRéalis is one of the many available global engineering, design, construction, and digital consultancy firms. And we have, in conjunction with the other people who I've already mentioned, GDS, Government Digital Services, the Ordnance Survey, and One Spatial, and the Greater London Authority, who made up the NUAR team, we have actually followed the principles of Sarah, do it once and then share it many times. We have managed to write up the lessons learned. So this is a little bit of our own website, but we have managed to come together and create something that we have now sort of on our website called the Playbook for Government-Led Infrastructure Data Sharing Programs. Very long word. But in essence, this is a challenging... In essence, and I was just going to show one picture of the past. There are pictures of the original hackathon where the whole team came together. Hackathon pilot was mentioned earlier on. It did its job. The Ordnance Survey organized an initial session at the Northumbrian Water Group Innovation Festival, where a whole bunch of people came together with some data and had a look whether you can put that all onto one map. Turns out you can. And this is one of the earliest photos that we have on the record, where we then found Ordnance Survey, Greater London Authority, Geospatial Commission, and formed the initial team in 100 Parliament Street. That is just a little momentum. That is, as I said, everything I'm showing is available online. So this is the core part of what I'm going to be talking about now. We have, you can find it there as a Geospatial Insight, a blog by Neil Drummel, the publication of Principles for Successful Delivery of Data Sharing Initiatives. And we do strongly feel that we want to share this with as many people as we can to learn and pick and choose from the playbook that we've created, because we do feel strongly that we have actually managed to do something that was thought since the publication of the Heineken advert, which can also be found on YouTube, 1998. Imagine what could be possible if 4 people in the road worked in the same hole at the same time, because they all work off the same map and they fix gas, electricity and water pipes all together. We do feel that we have actually moved the country a little bit further to that place. So Here are the principles. This is a GitHub site which will be also interesting for all of you if you just search NUAR GitHub. Here we have published the muddy data model that underpins the NUAR platform. And here we've also published some of the lessons learned, but also some of the obfuscation techniques, which I'll mention in a moment. And NUAR is a National Underground Asset Register with a very simple purpose, which is to make the work of people who dig holes in the road safer, more efficient, and more productive and smarter. So we've stuck right from the beginning, and I know this will be terrible news for everybody who just loves experimenting with loads of data and find out new innovative things. We were really, really boring and tight on what NUAR was trying to achieve. And the benefits of that propagate throughout the whole list of the other lessons learned, because you can be very clear with your procurement, you can be very clear with your technology, with your data sharing agreements, with treasury, you can calculate cost benefits very clearly on one particular thing. We're digging 4.5 million holes in UK roads every year. Each hole has a certain problem which you can aggregate. University of Birmingham did a lot of research on delays in the streets due to overrunning projects. And you can quantify what you want to do on a very single use case. You can also keep your software and tech developers and platform and user researchers on track and say, look, focus on solving this problem first, but at the same time, we solved a whole bunch of cross-cutting projects as well as the one that we set out to solve, which is safe digging and efficiencies. I was a full-time stakeholder engagement lead in the government for 4 years, engaging people and communities. Sarah's and others' bread and butter stuff does require time, it does require resources, because, as Sarah said, 100 other initiatives were going on at the same time. And you need to talk to them, find them, engage them, sometimes intervene and bring them on board. Sometimes you need to adopt or actually bring them into the team, buy them out. Like we did at the very beginning, we brought Ordnance Survey and the GLA, who were both on similar trajectories, into one team to solve the common purpose. And that sort of goes into and by the way, behind these principles is a page full of text behind each of them, giving more detail. These are just the headlines. Do not ignore previous and other complementary work. We went international. We had international engagement with the sort of leaders in the field from the Netherlands, for example. And also our friends north of the border in Scotland had already got a system which came out of some EPSRC-funded stuff from the early 2010s. So do not pretend you're the only one trying to solve this problem. Listen and learn from others. And be humble and adopt. If there is already a data model, don't be academic and precious and invent your own, just adopt what already exists. Business case was key. I keep doing this, and it's harsh and horrible to talk about the value and the money, but in order to get the £23 million roughly as an external resource plus the internal staff costs, so we're probably talking about £30 million program over 4 years. To get that from taxpayers' money from the Treasury, you do need a solid Green Book business case. And for that, it's useful to have a clear outcome and a clear reason in mind. Then there are a few contractual things. So we have made some recommendation of how government should probably procure. And then that sort of leads into a little bit also into the agile project and program management. So there were some lessons learned which are a bit more sort of PMO and behind the scenes. Embedding security, we've had a whole panel on this. We have worked with the NPSA, then called CPNI, and the NCSE from the start, and not as an afterthought. That's the key message, really. Security, a bit like health and safety. You don't go and create a great big project and then on the day before you go in the field you think, oh, what should I do about health and safety? Health and safety should be in all our culture, and it now is. And the security advisors always say that's where we need to get with cyber and digital and data security, not as an afterthought. We built that into the system, and with that comes trust. Now, NUAR is not a research tool. The trust needed to be there between different commercial entities. If you think about NUAR, we're sharing here between organizations from BT Openreach to North Norfolk District Council to the Canal and Rivers Trusts and National Grid. So if you think about the shape and size and structure and commercial models of all those organizations, security, integrity, and trust were paramount for them to engage and agree on data sharing barriers and contracts, which comes a little bit further down. I'm going to leave build empowered teams. That's a sort of a PMO business and good governance. So we created the one team approach, which we can talk about as well separately. But I want to flip to the Think Sustainably and also the data sharing agreement. So the Think Sustainably, it was absolutely clear, and this is a real challenge for many initiatives that come and then go, is from the day one, we need to think about who is actually going to run, operate, and fund this system for prosperity forever. And the Ordnance Survey was chosen through an internal process as the right place for this to go. But we also had to early on think about how is this going to be funded. And that involves estimating and measuring the amount of use and the security and the hosting, et cetera, et cetera. And that can't, again, be an afterthought on the final day of the program. This needs to be done all the way throughout because it has ramifications on how you build the platform, how you scale, who does the data transformation, how much can all the 325 local authorities afford every day in terms of depositing their street lighting data and their gully information? That has an impact on the data model. Do we ask them for everything, or do we have to maybe cut down our expectations in order to fulfill the use case and get the program going? And then maybe in the future, which comes a bit further down, think about other use cases that we can build on top of. So, data sharing agreements, and Sarah in our previous, keep looking at you because you're right in front of me, the CREDO program and various other CDBB, Digital Build Britain times, there was always the ask to NUAR, to the GDS, to Geospatial Commission, just share with us the data sharing agreements, and we were quite cagey for a very long time. However, they are now out in the open. The text and the content can be shared. They are delicate instruments, and they took, again, in money terms, in hours, I'm guessing they took several thousand people hours to construct. Individual conversations with commercial, legal. So everything that we've talked about on this panel is replicated in every single asset owner organization, from BT Openreach to National Grid to UK Power Network. So all the conversations had to be done again and again until we found one agreeable data distribution agreement that everybody could sign up in a one-to-one agreement. Now, this might be different in the future, but for now, remember we have the Ordnance Survey are now managing up to 600 or however many there are individual one-to-one data sharing agreements. So they need to be fit for purpose, and they can't just be made up by any of us. They are serious pieces of work. And they need to allow, and this is sort of the final points there, and there's a bit about agile and iteration, and we meant that as well. Theory of change, whatever you want to call it. End game was in mind. It was clear it's going to be a map in the field on some iPad where someone has a burst water main in the middle of the night and they needed to have all the information on a map. That was clear. But to get there, we were agile. No waterfall. Well, we had an end game in mind, but we needed to be agile because things happen. Some organizations didn't have vectorized data. They might have just had PDFs. So we needed to think about, can we allow raster data? The scale and adoption, clearly, that's sort of all linked. We are deploying a system that might have, I'm guessing, could be up to 10,000 daily users in all parts of the United Kingdom. By the way, NUAR for now is England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and there are conversations with the Scottish Roadworks Commissioner about a join-up later on. And then we have down here the 14 and 15. So 15 is the data use and access bill. So we then ended up influencing existing policy, which sort of came out of Ollie's department, was underway. Previously called the Data Information and Something Bill, and then finally the Data Use and Access Act is now in place. It was always clear to create a level playing field, and also a consultation is live now for everybody to put their thoughts in about how we charge, back to the sustainability piece. In the end of the day, legislation was needed. But importantly, it was legislation that was built by the community throughout, and not some sort of top-down, you must share everything for some random purpose. It was with a clear purpose and the use case in mind. And then we have the innovation. So we then have you and other innovators and researchers and SMEs. And there is we did have a hackathon at Northumbrian Water Group Festival. So we returned to the tent where Carsten and people were in 2018. And we did create a sandbox environment in a trusted research or data secure data environment for people to experiment. So once you have everything in place, you can think about future options. We have been going around to all of you and many others to see what else can we do with our data, but we're doing that now, not at the beginning. So we went right down to the one single use case, very boring. It's just about street works, but we now hopefully have created something that the whole nation can explore in time. Talking to the Ordnance Survey and government, this is not our job, we just did the research, as I said, so we are for here. We are stepping off that as AtkinsRéalis for now. So that's the future, and I hope that's given you an insight, and as I said, everything is there. This is not our property, this is everyone's, for you to read, share it, and as Sarah said, we've done it once now, let's just not remake, let's do the same mistakes, but reuse what we've learned. Thank you very much.